What if I told you that in Pennsylvania in the 1700s, we had birth certificates that were made by the residents here? I know this sounds strange, but they did make their own official, for themselves, birth certificates. And I'll give you some help in this episode to tell you where to find them, what they're called, and who exactly was making these certificates. Hi, everyone. My name's Denise Allen. Think of me as your concierge to Pennsylvania genealogy and history here in the Keystone State. Today, I am going to talk about some unusual records that not a lot of people know about here called fraktur. That's what we call it, fraktur. Fraktur. It's an unusual word, and it usually means that script that Germans wrote in way back when they first came over to America. It's got thick lines and thin lines to it. That was known as fraktur. But we also use it here to describe a particular kind of folk art, also by the German speakers here in Pennsylvania. So I want to talk about it in this episode because those early German speakers, who we call the Pennsylvania Germans or the Pennsylvania Dutch, people fight about which name to call them. Believe it or not, I know. You think in genealogy we never argue about anything, but yes, we argue about this term too. But anyway, those folks who came here early when Pennsylvania was a colony brought with them this tradition of making these certificates to celebrate the birth of their children and also to celebrate their marriages. They also have examples of this fraktur that was just manuscript practice or maybe noting graduation in school. It could be done for a lot of things, but as genealogists, we really, really, really want these like birth records because it names the parents. And in genealogy, we're always trying to go back as far as we can and look for some sort of evidence of who was related to who the brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, and trace them all the way back to the countries that they came from. So this fraktur was created by the people here. It is said that it was traveling artists who went from community to community and offered to make these certificates for people, obviously for a price, for a fee. We don't know how much it was, but they can tell from analyzing this folk art that there is similar looking trends across it and probably similar artists. A lot of the artists are unnamed, but we do have the names of who is on the documents in German, of course, that is recorded on them. So let me show you some examples of fraktur, and I'll kind of talk you through it and so you can see what is on here, because as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. In this example of fraktur, this is more than just a birth record, it is also a marriage record. And this couple had 4 quotes that were important to them, 4 sayings that they put in the hearts around the outside of the actual record, the genealogical record that we'd be interested in the middle. The 4 sayings that they chose to put on here have fortunately been translated for us into English, so we don't have to try to read this German from the 1700s, or actually the 1800s. The heart on the bottom says, "At last my faith holds on to you, and when death comes calling, I will nevertheless be cheerful, because a good end makes everything good." And then it includes the date 1814. The heart on the right says, "If I call on you, Lord, in need, you are with me on my path. If cross and sadness trouble me, my cries will move you right away." The heart on the top is a quote from the Bible, and it says, "Remember me, my God, for good," to be read in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13, verse 31. And for the heart on the left, it's another Bible quote, and it says, "For where your treasure is, there will be your heart also." Luke chapter 12, verse 34. And then it also adds in the year 1814. The genealogical part in the middle that we're interested in says the following. It says, "Katerina was born to Christian and honest parents in Pennsylvania in Brothers Valley Township in Somerset County in the year of our Lord, 1793, the 25th of November. Her parents were Johannes Stutzman and his wife Anna, a born Spectrerin. Daniel Esch and Katharina Stutzman were married in the year of Christ, 1814, the 3rd of April, and on the same day were united in marriage. God may give them much good fortune and blessing and a healthy long life in peace and harmony. So a really wonderful sentiment and a way to memorialize their marriage and also give us the information on Katerina. It's often hardest to find the parents and the maiden names of our female ancestors, and this fraktur provides a great way to do it. Now, the question is, where is this fraktur and where do I find it? Well, with a lot of things genealogy that are not government documents, they're more private collections, you're going to find that this fraktur is all over the place. So with government documents, we're going to find records of our people in the place where they lived. So if they lived in Pennsylvania, their records would be with the Pennsylvania state government if it was a government record, right? We're going to have it somewhere in a county archives or at the state archives, or if it's a large city like Philadelphia, in the city archives, right? That is very clear. But when it comes to private records, things like church records, someone's personal papers, diaries, letters, family Bibles, maybe business records from a railroad or a steel company, those could be anywhere. We hope that they're somewhere here in Pennsylvania, but the reality is if it went with a family member, especially the personal papers, across to another state, out of the country, and that person died there, that's likely where those papers lie. So the fraktur, if it was passed down in families, could be in any archive. It could be anywhere. And that's not very helpful to you. So I do have something more helpful to tell you about where to find this fraktur, because you're thinking, I have Pennsylvania German ancestors. I really want to know if any of my family, my ancestors, are named on any of these documents. Well, here's the other place to look for fraktur. It has been digitized a lot because it's folk art and it's easy to digitize. It's not very large. It's larger than a normal 8.5 by 11 certificate. It might be more like 14 by 18, sometimes 14 by 16 or 12 by 16. So not huge to deal with. And because it's on paper, a little bit delicate, a lot of archives or museums that have this fraktur have went ahead and digitized it. And the wonderful part is they've digitized it in full color. So as a genealogist, when we find these digital copies, we can just see it in its full glory and don't have to try to guess using a black and white or grayscale what the colors might be actually on the document, and just hope that we find the original someday. So if you can find these digital copies, they're just as great as looking at the original. And sometimes it's better, quite frankly, because you can zoom in on it and zoom back out, which you can't really do if you're looking in a museum through a glass case at a document. I mean, I guess you could get really close to it and put your nose on the glass, put your reading glasses on, and, bring a magnifying glass. But it's just not as convenient. And the people in the museum will look at you funny. But, Anyway, these digital copies of fraktur have been done by, as I said, museums and archives. One of the most easiest and famous places to get this digital fraktur is the National Archives in DC. When men fought in the Revolutionary War, they went to apply for pensions, or their widows did. And to prove the relationship to the soldier, they would submit these fraktur documents as proof. So later on, when archivists opened up these Revolutionary War pension files to digitize them, to put up on Fold 3, they found the full color fraktur. So they've digitized that full color fraktur, and you can find it on the National Archives site. It is, as I mentioned, considered folk art, which means it's art done by everyday people. It's not art done by quote unquote artists. I don't even know, quite frankly, who's considered an artist and who isn't. I'm not that fancy of a person. To me, if someone creates something of beauty that other people enjoy, it's art. I know. I'm just completely violating the rules. But back to your fraktur. So it was found in Revolutionary War pension files and put up that way. It was also collected by some people and displayed as art in their homes. So you'll find it at Winterthur Museum in Delaware, has quite a collection of fraktur, is another place, because the family that had that, the family that lived at Winterthur liked to collect it, and there you'll find it. And I went ahead and put those in the show notes. So, with the documents, as I mentioned, they are in German. Some people, thankfully, have translated that German into English to make the documents more searchable. It, it often notes not just the names of the people on the documents, but where the document was created. So, for a genealogist to make this useful, you're going to want to know all those things. You can't just take a name off a document and say, this is my ancestor. You also need to correlate it to the place and make sure that it's related to the place where your ancestors lived, and also that it makes sense and there's not other conflicting evidence, as in other documents with the same name people on them, but also in the same name place. Does that make sense? So you just have to kind of compare and everything. But you will find on those documents, again, these baptism certificates are the ones we're really going after, the name of the child and the name of the parents and the date that the child was born, which is just so wonderful to find in, let's say, 1720. So I did make for my inner circle members a full list of everywhere that I have found fraktur, and that is exclusive to them as a bonus for being in the inner circle. They get that inside information of things that I found and resources that I use, and this list of fraktur is one of them. If you're interested in getting access to information like that, I do have a membership available. It is opening towards the end of the month, just before Halloween. And you can get the details of that by going to paancestors.com and clicking on members. That'll take you to my members site. And there's a whole page there with lots of information so you can figure out, is this inner circle worth it for me to get this information and other information? So another thing that I'm offering on there now is not just an introduction to Pennsylvania records, but also an overview and introduction to researching at Pennsylvania courthouses. So if you're unsure of what to get at a Pennsylvania courthouse and to go in the doors of that building with confidence, because I love going with confidence. I don't like walking in kind of going, ah, I can help you with this course, which I'm just calling Research Pennsylvania Courthouses with Confidence. So I will help you research those records. I'll explain to you all the county offices, all the records that are available, what years they're available, and how you actually access them. Some of them are online, but the majority are not online. I know this is so frustrating if you live out of state, but even if you live out of state, I can tell you exactly what's at that county courthouse and how to access it, so you can email them directly and get the information that you want, right? You can confidently and securely ask them without sounding silly or unsure and all those things that we never want to sound like when we're researching. I know, I've been there. I hope that helped you with your research in early Pennsylvania. Now, this is just our German speakers who participated in making these documents. I haven't found it among the other major ethnic groups that were here in the 1700s, meaning the English, the African Americans, the Scots-Irish, the Native Americans. I haven't seen it done for any of those groups. And if you've run across fraktur that was done for them, I'd love to see it. Just drop it in the comments, shoot me an email through my website, because I want to see it. It's going to be like, wow, we all love things that are the exceptions to the rules, right? So as soon as I say it's Pennsylvania Germans who did these documents, someone's going to say, no, there's actually these other examples. And I want to know about the other examples too. This is Denise Allen with PA Ancestors, your concierge to Pennsylvania, all things history and genealogy. And I hope this helps you discover lots about your Pennsylvania ancestors.